Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Amber Duke.
And I'm Robby Soave. Well, the ladies of The View are still coming to terms with Donald Trump's election victory. And honestly, we can't look away. Here's Joy Behar refusing to acknowledge that Trump received a mandate from the American people.
And by the way, this idea that Trump won with some kind of mandate is not true. I mean, we have information there. He beat Kamala Harris by 1.6%. Joe Biden beat Trump by 4.5%, and nobody said it was a mandate. So get that out of your lips, out of your mouth, these people who are saying it's a mandate. It's not a mandate. And another thing, one more thing. Why are all these cabinet members on people that he's seen on television? Is he going to put Vanna White in there now?
Yes.
I mean, every single one of them is known to us. There's like most presidents, when they have a cabinet, they find like the greatest people from the universe. Yeah, but we didn't know who they were. Did you know Tillerson before he came on? No. I know every single one of these. Even that Hegseth person was an ABC News guy.
No, Fox News.
Whatever.
Fox.
Oh, never mind.
Not here.
Yeah.
But this is it's a TV cabinet. Maybe he's doing
It's
it
a
because he
TV
wants to
cabinet.
make sure they look good on screen.
In terms of having a mandate, it's true that Joe Biden won the popular vote over Donald Trump by more than Donald Trump won the popular vote over Kamala, but that has to do with the excess vote tallies in states that were not the swing states. Joe Biden beat Donald Trump more narrowly in the swing states that decided the election than Donald Trump beat Kamala. So it was more of a Biden's. So it depends what you're counting, and the popular vote doesn't count for anything. So the margin in the swing states was greater under Trump, which is why you would say that Trump has more of a mandate than Joe Biden. Obviously, people can read it either. We're a pretty closely divided country. It's been reasonably close to the last three elections, at least by the standards of what we used to consider blowouts. Where like Reagan won 49 states, and I think Johnson and Nixon did the same. And during their, that's never going to happen ever again. But no, it's pretty clear Donald Trump ran on responding to immigration, fixing inflation, and a few other things, and I think does have a mandate to do something about them. Do I agree with all of his immigration policies? Absolutely not, but he made no secret of what he intended to do, and he won. So, and also they won the Senate, they won the House. You'd have to be in denial to say there isn't a mandate for Republicans to do something.
Yeah, and I think it is important to hone in on those issues as well, because Trump throughout the entire election, whether it was against Biden or Kamala, was more trusted on the American people on the issues. When asked about his specific policy proposals, the majority of Americans agreed that they wanted things like mass deportations, that they wanted him to unleash American energy to frack, et cetera, et cetera. When Biden ran in 2020, it was more of a campaign of vibes similar to the Kamala Harris campaign. It was return to normalcy, more adults in the room, and less on specific policy proposals.
Do you think Americans really majorities want mass deportation?
I do.
I mean,
but I will say this, I'll caveat it a little bit, because I think that they say that more in response to the idea of getting rid of people who were already flagged for deportation and criminals, whether people have committed crimes in the United States or were accused of crimes in their home country. I think if it does get to the point where he's doing what the media suggests is going to happen, which is the rounding up people door to door, the appetite for that might turn the other way.
In the same way that, like, if you in an abstract poll people on, do you want Medicare for all, or do you want government to provide your health care for you? Well, people will say yes, and then you start going into the details, but what if that means you have to wait in a longer line for health care? What if that means we have to start rationing care? What if that means we have finite resources? Then people go, well, that doesn't sound so good. I think it's clear that Donald Trump has a mandate to deal with some of the excess problems associated with illegal immigration and crime, or illegal immigration and social services being too taken up by, in New York, the problem of, housing illegal immigrants, or taking up resources, that kind of thing, clearly needs to be dealt with in a way that does not, I would hope, and I think the American people would also feel if they saw it, creation of new surveillance mechanisms or new policing of the American people. I don't want to show my immigration papers if I get stopped on the street for speeding, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do a lot of creative things that are a lot simpler than that and wouldn't catch American citizens in the dragnet. So one of the first examples that comes to mind is the implementation of the CBP-1 app that was created under the Biden administration. How that works is when an illegal immigrant comes across, they check in on the app, say that they want to apply for asylum or parole or what have you. There's actually no mechanism within that app to track where people are. The only way that you can see where they are is when they check in. So let's say someone gets a court date that's 6 months out, but they have to check in 3 months prior. When they actually hit the check-in button, the government sees, okay, they're in Iowa, for example. But then the tracking mechanism stops. If they don't end up checking in or if they don't show up for their court hearing, there's actually no way through the CBP-1 app to see where that person is. I think that's outrageous. Like, they're not an American citizen. They don't enjoy the same civil liberties that an American citizen does. They're in the country illegally. You should be able to use an app on their phone to be able to track them and say, hey, get the hell out of here.
Never heard of this, so I'll have to take your word for it.
Thanks.
Let's move on to the cabinet appointments. The View talking about how, and to their credit, they're correct. This is a substantial lineup drawn from Fox News in particular. Donald Trump is not first and foremost an ideological thinker. I think that's fair to say. He has some ideological impulses, but he seems to primarily think this person does a good job representing me and what I want to do. I've seen them excel in the realm of communication, and so I want to offer them a role in my administration. That seems to have motivated a lot of his choices. Now, these people are themselves might be representatives of an ideology. I think Tulsi very clearly is. RFK Jr. very clearly is. Marco Rubio is, not in a way I necessarily like or agree with. I don't know exactly what Pete Hegg said. I mean, his views are known. He's been on TV, so you can probably, it's possible to figure them out. So I think it's interesting to see how this cabinet will all get along, because there are different undercurrents of the way people want to move policy, whether it's foreign policy, the push and pull between a kind of more neoconservative thing or a more anti-interventionist, populist or libertarian thing. And then again, also on economic issues, where you see the influence of people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, who are more friendly, I think, to my brand of libertarianism, to free market stuff, and the more kind of maybe economic populism represented by your Stephen Bannons and Stephen Millers and J.D. Vance himself. So maybe this team of rivals will prove fruitful, or maybe they're all going to kill each other because they actually do disagree when it comes down to it, or Trump's going to be the decider, and we'll find out.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I think the one benefit is that having seen a first Trump administration, picking people whose views are well known publicly and who are chosen specifically by Trump and not some external transition team or Washington insider, is that it kind of removes that impulse that existed the first time around, which is, well, if we just get in there, then we can kind of stop him from doing all this crazy stuff he talked about on the campaign trail. I feel like that kind of mindset is notably absent from this incoming transition team, although they might vary a little bit on a right-leaning spectrum, and especially in terms of foreign policy. I don't get the sense that Marco Rubio is taking the Secretary of State position because he wants to turn Trump into like a war hawk for Israel. At least that's not the sense that I'm getting from.
I hear that. I certainly hope this time around. I don't know how you feel about this. I think one of the biggest and earliest mistakes Trump made first time was listening to his family, listening to Jared Kushner.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started on Jared Kushner.
Right, putting the family in charge first and foremost. Look, I'm sure Don Jr. and Eric Trump now have been in conservative media long enough that I'm sure they have some perfectly fine media comms instincts or whatever. But in terms of policy, having Jared Kushner and Ivanka in charge of this was not to the benefit of what Trump tried to do. And it's very nepotistic and is very trying to establish a dynasty of people who actually didn't understand in the first place why Trump was able to win. And so I hope to not see very much of that.
Yeah, I mean, they've both said that they're not returning to the administration, which I think is great. I mean, they were both Democrats, right? Like, they had really no business being there in the first place. I would give Jared Kushner credit for one thing and one thing only, which was that he was able to develop good enough relationships in the Middle East to advance the Abraham Accords. How much of that was solely on his shoulders, I don't know. But everything else that I learned during the first administration about his influence was very anti whatever the MAGA movement was intended to be. So again, at the very least, I think this transition team to me feels more like they're going in to kind of shake things up and not do things the old way.
Do you think Matt Gaetz is going to get confirmed?
I don't know. I think it's 50-50 maybe.
That's kind of how I feel.
But I think
I think anybody saying like, no, it's impossible, he'll never get confirmed.
I don't
like,
buy that.
Were you not awake for the last 10 years? It could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, it depends, I guess, on what specifically is in the report. There have been a couple of leaks about it.
I have to imagine this report is coming out one way or the other.
It's going to come out,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, again, the leaks almost seem like blackmail to an extent. Like, hey, we've got this and it's coming out on you.
I mean, I think it should come out, frankly. I'm for transparency. I'm not for keeping things from the American people.
He should call
We
for-
have to be able to decide for ourselves what's it. And we might decide that the accusations are not credible or there's nothing to them, or we might decide, holy shit, they're worse than we ever could have imagined. But there's no reason really for, he's not a private citizen. He's a sitting congressman. He's a public political official. We should be able to decide for ourselves.
Yeah,
what
and
the
actually,
report says.
he could do a big power move by just saying, release it.
Yeah.
If he's
I have nothing to
confident.
hide, release it.
I mean, that would
He's not doing that, is he?
No, he's not. I think he probably should. I mean, he does have on his side, to his credit, in going through the confirmation process, that the DOJ decided to never actually bring charges against him. There was a confirmed bribery scheme involving his dad. So I don't think it's as clear-cut as some of the sort of naysayers in the media are making it out to be.
Yeah, I have a hard time telling, which is why I'd like to read the report. I mean, I appreciate he obviously is being positioned. It was nominated for Attorney General. Well, you probably don't like his drug positions. I like his drug positions. You probably like his antitrust positions. I don't like his antitrust position. His policies are interesting and kind of heterodox, but he is, subsumed by these somewhat extremely serious charges that we can't quite adjudicate at this point, but I think might ultimately sink him, but we will have to see. Thanks so much for watching Free Media Today. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tell us what you think in the comments, and we'll be back next week.